Qin Shaojuan's voice crackled with irritation over the phone. Lu Sheng, do you realize that tonight was the first time Dong Qingxue ever invited a man to dinner? And you stood her up. How could you? Lu Sheng, holding the phone with one hand, used the other to cover his ear, trying to block out the escalating frustration in Qin Shaojuan's tone. He closed his eyes, feeling a wave of regret wash over him. I'm really sorry, Qin Shaojun. I was caught up in a critical stage of my martial practice and lost track of time. Qin Shaojun sighed heavily, his frustration palpable. You must be quite something if you're advancing so rapidly. But now what? What are you going to do? Lu Sheng brought the phone back to his ear, his voice tinged with confusion. I didn't think missing a dinner for a couple of hours would be such a big deal. Qin Shaojuan's frustration seemed to waver, replaced by a wry smile. You really are something else. I admire your dedication. All right, I'll let it slide this time. With that, he ended the call. Lu Sheng stared at his phone, perplexed. Was it really such a grave matter? He decided to shift his focus and enter the dream space to process everything further. Hours later, Lu Sheng stood in the dream space, surrounded by flickering system windows. One hand rested in his pocket while the other navigated through the interface. He tapped on Personal Profile, and a series of windows materialized before him. He scrolled through the tabs until Dong Qingxue's profile appeared. Lu Sheng studied the profile, pondering if the slight inconvenience of missing a dinner had any significant repercussions. As he continued to read, he realized that nothing catastrophic had occurred. He decided to focus on his training instead. With a determined look, Lu Sheng extended his hands and marveled at the accelerated progress of the stellar immortal art. The transition from the second to the third phase of his immortal body was proving much quicker. He recalled the ease with which he had decimated mutant beasts with his enhanced abilities, feeling a surge of satisfaction. Lu Sheng extended his arms, tilted his head back, and his eyes glowed with a brilliant white light. His mind raced with images of his immortal cells in action. The sensation was almost exhilarating, as if he were cheating the very limits of his potential. Completing the third phase would transform his body to be far superior to its original state. As his eyes shone, the immortal cells began to tear through his skin, revealing the powerful musculature beneath. Sitting cross-legged, he brought his hands together, generating a surge of golden energy. His body, now a blend of internal and external power, seemed to pulse with vitality. Lu Sheng visualized different warriors, each representing various aspects of his evolving techniques. He imagined a warrior encased in blue energy, wielding a sword with precision. Another figure appeared, radiating golden energy from their palms, suggesting prowess in hand-to-hand combat. He visualized a powerful, muscular, bald warrior surrounded by flames, embodying raw strength and fiery resolve. As Lu Sheng stood in the vast emptiness of the dream space, he felt a profound sense of transformation taking place. His gaze, intense and unwavering, was fixed on the colossal spirit of Eastern Evil Sun before him. Compared to the towering figure, he was like a mere ant. Clenching his teeth, Lu Sheng reflected on the monumental task ahead. Even if he mastered the stellar immortal art to the level of Eastern Evil Sun, he knew he could never surpass the grandeur of the technique, for it had been created by the Eastern Evil Sun himself. With a determined smile, Lu Sheng allowed his body to decompose into shimmering particles. The moment marked a turning point. He was about to remodel himself completely. He floated upwards, extending his hand toward the sky, and his body erupted with a vibrant green energy, a testament to his mastery of the natural breathing technique. His fists tightened, and his form was soon enveloped in a blazing fire energy. As he directed his hand downward, he wove his fingers together, conjuring a radiant golden aura around him. Harnessing the natural breathing technique, Lu Sheng adapted his body to the stellar decrease, merging all his techniques into one powerful force. He extended his hand skyward again, and the stones beneath him shattered into fragments. Bringing his palm closer, ice energy coalesced into delicate crystals. His smile widened as he admired the result, recognizing the profound compatibility of his new form, which surpassed even the creator, Eastern Evil Sun. It was time to bestow a name upon this evolved martial body. Lu Sheng envisioned a fetus floating in the cosmic expanse, encircled by a golden planet and surrounded by all energies. He decided to call this new form the immortal body. He recalled the legendary bodies of ancient warriors, the supreme celestial demon, the sacred primordial path body, and felt a sense of kinship with these legendary figures. His body now stood among the most formidable in the universe. With a hand resting on his belt and the other atop his head, Lu Sheng closed his eyes and smiled. His golden aura radiated with a brilliance that confirmed his newfound strength. This wasn't mere fantasy. His body was truly manifesting its new power. In a triumphant gesture, Lu Sheng clenched one fist tightly and extended his other hand skyward. A colossal golden sphere materialized, which he named the Immortal Star. The sphere's energy expanded violently, causing the dream space to tremble and crack. Buildings shattered into debris under its force. Lu Sheng spread his arms wide, his eyes gleaming with an intense light, and soared through the rift space. A massive golden dragon materialized behind him, and his body was cocooned in an unyielding golden energy. With a steely resolve, he surveyed the horizon, contemplating his new level of combat strength. Even the top experts would find it challenging to breach his defenses now. He placed his hand thoughtfully under his chin, lifted his head, and pondered aloud. What level of combat strength could I achieve now? Doubling it wouldn't be far-fetched, would it? He had resolved to test his newly acquired power. As he stepped outside, his gaze fell upon the lifeless corpse of a zombie, lying amidst the rubble. He clenched his fists tightly, examining the decayed remains with a serious expression. This was the perfect opportunity for a real-world test of his new abilities. In the distance, amid the ruins of a once thriving base, Lu Sheng spotted a figure standing atop a shattered stone. The figure wore a red cape and had scars crisscrossing his face. On his forehead, an amulet shaped like a moon gleamed ominously. Lu Sheng recognized him instantly. Guien, the martial saint Swordsteam, now a formidable zombie warrior. Lu Sheng's heart raced with anticipation. He had been itching for a challenge, and here was a sword master, poised and ready. With a confident smile, Lu Sheng taunted Guien, inviting him to face his power. He slipped his hands into his pants pockets and braced himself, lifting one foot to strike the ground. Gathering his strength, he launched a powerful kick that shattered the surrounding debris into fragments. The impact of Lu Sheng's kick resonated through the area, drawing Guien's full attention. The sword master's gaze hardened as he prepared for a counterattack. Without a hint of hesitation, Guien unleashed a devastating blue energy wave from his sword. The sheer force of the attack cleaved through two skyscrapers, sending them crashing to the ground. Lu Sheng's eyes widened in shock. The intensity of Guien's strike was beyond what he had anticipated. Reacting swiftly, Lu Sheng's body collided with the incoming energy wave. The difference in power sent him hurtling backward. His body propelled through the air until he crashed into a series of buildings. He tumbled from structure to structure, his form barely visible amidst the swirling debris. After several seconds, he finally managed to halt his trajectory, his feet planting firmly on the ground, creating a massive cloud of smoke. Lu Sheng's body was battered and bruised, the remnants of the attack evident across his form. As the smoke began to clear, he looked down at his wounds, contemplating the overwhelming power of Guien. Raising his head, Lu Sheng's expression hardened with resolve. His body shimmered with a powerful purple energy, and a determined smile spread across his face. He was resolute. A single cut would not defeat him. He was ready to take Guien down. The immortal cells within him began to glow, radiating a brilliant golden light. Behind him, the ethereal spirit of a god appeared, its hands clasped in a solemn pose. An ice phoenix materialized beside it, followed by a fire phoenix, their fiery and icy auras intertwining with Lu Sheng's own energy. These spirits represented the pinnacle of martial willpower. With his fists clenched and eyes closed, Lu Sheng activated the natural breathing technique. His muscles swelled, his body enveloped in a fiery aura. The combined wills of martial arts infused him with immense power. His aura intensified, a storm of elemental energy swirling around him as he prepared for the final confrontation. As the thick curtain of smoke began to dissipate, Guien's senses sharpened. Realizing the gravity of the situation, he tightened his grip on his sword, adopting an aggressive stance. A deep purple energy began to emanate from him, forming a swirling vortex of power. His lips curled into a grim smile as he focused on Lu Sheng, whom he now perceived as a mere boastful opponent. Guien was determined to end this with a single, decisive blow. Lu Sheng, however, remained unfazed. As the smoke cleared, he observed Guien's movements with an intrigued expression. To his surprise, he could sense Guien's thoughts with startling clarity. It was a new, unsettling ability, but Lu Sheng welcomed it as an opportunity to teach Guien a lesson in humility. Activating his perfected state, Lu Shang summoned several energy duplicates of himself, each radiating a distinct aura. The copies, embodiments of his complete martial arts mastery, surrounded him. They were diverse in their forms. Some wore armored gloves, others wielded spears, and a few brandished swords. Each was a testament to Lu Shang's versatile combat skills. With a determined look, Lu Shang extended his hand towards Guien, then leaped forward. His copies followed in perfect unison, each one moving with precision and purpose. The air crackled with their combined energy as they advanced toward Guien. Guien, unfazed by Lu Shang's display, focused on his own preparation. He placed one hand firmly atop the sword's hilt, channeling his energy into the blade. The sword grew in size, its blade shimmering with a menacing blue light. With a fierce glint in his eyes, Guien readied himself for a finishing strike, intent on crushing Lu Shang's arrogance in one devastating attack. As Guien launched his attack, the energy wave cut through the air with destructive force, obliterating everything in its path. Buildings crumbled and debris scattered as the attack surged forward, an unstoppable force of raw power. Lu Shang watched the approaching onslaught with steely determination. He clenched his fist tightly, and as he did, his energy copies merged into the sphere of his fist. His eyes shone with intensity as he prepared his own counterattack. He announced the name of his technique with a voice that echoed with authority. "This is the destruction of the void." With a powerful thrust, Lu Shang unleashed his attack. The two immense forces collided in a spectacular explosion of energy, the impact tearing through the surrounding area. The shockwave sent debris flying, and the ground quaked under the immense pressure. The collision created a massive sphere of energy that expanded outward, its brilliance lighting up the ruins. The expanding sphere was a mesmerizing display of destructive force, pushing away everything in its path. Buildings disintegrated, and the very fabric of the environment was reshaped by the raw power of Lu Shang's technique. The landscape transformed into a tumultuous sea of energy and rubble, the sheer scale of the destruction under the immense power of both combatants. As the blinding light and energy subsided, the aftermath revealed Guien standing amidst the devastation. He held his sword in one hand and its sheath in the other, the surrounding landscape a wasteland of destruction. Guien's gaze fell to the ground, and a smile slowly spread across his face. Despite the chaos, he remained upright. Lu Shang, surrounded by a cocoon of potent energy, stood silently, his fists clenched. He turned his head slightly, his gaze calm and unwavering as he addressed Guien. With a hint of humor in his voice, he explained, "The only reason I fought you was because you're more handsome than I am." As Guien's spirit began to dissipate, transforming into a soft purple glow, Lu Shang approached with respect, bowing his head in a gesture of honor. "Rest in peace, immortal spirit," he said quietly. Seconds later, Lu Shang's strength gave out. Exhaustion overwhelmed him, and he lost his balance, collapsing onto the ground. The battle with Guien, a martial saint-level zombie, had taken a toll far greater than he had anticipated. Lu Shang realized he had underestimated the strength of his opponent. Despite Guien's formidable power, Lu Shang's survival was largely due to his instinctive reactions. Without them, the outcome could have been fatal. Struggling to move, Lu Shang propped himself up with an elbow and a hand, crawling towards Guien's now lifeless corpse. He reflected on his performance. The technique that had split the void and created over 200 illusory copies was a testament to his increased strength. This technique, however, was suited only for the dream space. He would only showcase it in public when he was ready to confront a martial saint. As he neared the corpse, dark energy began to emanate from Guien's body, flowing towards Lu Shang. With a hand resting on the ground and the other palm turned upward, Lu Shang watched in bewilderment as the energy entered his body. His teeth clenched. He wondered what was happening. The dark energy from Guien's corpse engulfed Lu Shang, and memories began to flood his mind. He was transported to Guien's childhood, vividly replayed as if he were living in it. In the dim light of a stormy night, young Guien huddled beneath the stairs of a decrepit house, shivering against the cold. The relentless rain hammered against the roof, and thunder cracked loudly overhead. In the midst of this bleak scene, a boy with tattered clothes and a tube of nutritious liquid appeared. His face, despite its dirt, held a warm and reassuring smile. "Brother, I'm back," the boy announced cheerfully, extending the tube towards Guien. "I've brought this for you." Guien's eyes widened with a mix of surprise and relief. He took the tube with both hands, his eyes darting between the boy and the liquid. "Where did you get this?" he asked urgently. The boy explained that a garbage truck had arrived earlier, and after a thorough search, he managed to find the tube. There were two, but the knife group took the other one, he said with a hint of bitterness. Don't worry, though. I'll make them regret it. They'll vomit up every bite. As tears streamed down Gu Xian's cheeks, he shared half of the precious liquid with his brother. Don't fight them, he pleaded. It's too dangerous. The boy, moved by Gu Xian's gesture, knelt beside him, gently placing a hand on his head. Don't cry, little one, he said soothingly. I'll take you back to the base soon. Days later, their fragile peace was shattered by the arrival of attackers. Gu Xian's brother, wielding an axe with remarkable skill and surrounded by a powerful aura of martial energy, confronted the intruders. His fierce display was enough to send the attackers fleeing in terror, unwilling to face someone so fearlessly defiant. Amidst the aftermath of the skirmish, Gu Xian rushed to his brother's side, who bore a bruise on his eye. Tears streamed down Gu Xian's face as he clung to his brother, who embraced him despite the blood-stained axe in his hand. Don't cry, his brother urged, holding him tightly. Remember, to survive, you must be ruthless. Focus on killing techniques when you train. With a heavy heart, Gu Xian nodded, promising to remember the lessons. Don't die, he pleaded, his voice choked with emotion. As they sat amidst the carnage, a new figure emerged from the shadows. An imposing man in black boots, radiating a powerful blue energy. His presence exuded authority and intrigue. He surveyed the scene with a mix of surprise and admiration. I see you've managed to survive, he said, his voice calm yet commanding. Turning towards the man, Gu Xian and his brother were met with a perplexed expression. The stranger, clad in the attire of a great master, extended a hand. From now on, you will follow me, he decreed, his voice brooking no argument. Years passed, and the scene shifted to a grim, somber moment. A house was in ruins, its inhabitants slain. Amidst the destruction, an old man, bleeding and crumpled on the floor, reached for a photograph of a young girl. He clutched it tightly, his voice trembling as he begged for mercy. Please, don't kill me. I have a daughter, just 5 years old. I'm begging you. Standing over him, a now fully grown Gu Xian regarded the old man with a cold, detached demeanor. The photograph of the little girl was eerily reminiscent of his own younger brother. With a heavy silence, Gu Xian's gaze softened slightly. He lifted his foot from the photo and gestured for the old man to leave. Go, he said quietly. The old man, eyes filled with gratitude and relief, gathered the photo and thanked Gu Xian. Good people like you will be rewarded, he said before hurrying away. Gu Xian stepped out of the apartment, closing the door behind him with a firm shove. The cool night air hit him as he moved down the dimly lit hallway. Leaning against the wall just outside, a red-haired man with a cigarette dangling from his lips raised his gaze, watching Gu Xian with an inscrutable expression. Mission completed? The red-haired man asked, his voice muffled by the smoke. Gu Xian's eyes dropped to the ground, and he nodded. Yes. The man extinguished his cigarette with a casual flick of his fingers, crushing it into nothingness. He approached Gu Xian, placing a heavy hand on the back of his neck. His penetrating gaze bore into Gu Xian's soul. You know the drill, he said, his tone unwavering. These people were followers of the apocalyptic cult. They lost their humanity long ago and don't deserve any mercy. If you don't kill, others will kill you. It doesn't matter if you practice martial arts or if you're just an ordinary person. Toughness is key. Got it? Gu Xian, eyes still on the ground, murmured a subdued, yes. The scene shifted in Gu Xian's mind as he relived a haunting vision. He was meditating in a dimly lit gym when suddenly the vision revealed the devastating news. His brother had died. He snapped his eyes open, his heart pounding. The anguish was palpable as he reached for the hilt of his sword with one hand and the sheath with the other. The memory of his brother's sacrifice echoed painfully in his mind. His master, turning his back and walking away, left him with a parting remark. I've told you before, those from the apocalyptic cult are no longer human. They're humanity's greatest hidden tumor. Nothing they say is true. Gu Xian's gaze locked onto the sword, his face contorted with rage and despair. The reality of the revenge he sought consumed him. His eyes glowed with a fierce intensity, and a maniacal smile slowly spread across his face. The madness of his pursuit, driven by the memory of his brother, was now an inseparable part of him. Years passed, and Gu Xian's form evolved into that of a formidable warrior. Clad in striking red samurai armor, he sat in a meditative pose. Before him stood his master, who held a scroll with one hand while the other rested behind his back. "Lord Duan has spoken," the master began, his voice measured and calm. "Your path of killing has become too prominent, too soaked in blood. For now, you must master the knife rotation technique." He tossed the scroll to Guien, who caught it with a steady hand. "Once you've quenched your thirst for blood, Lord Duan will reconsider." Guien trained relentlessly, perfecting the technique and unleashing his fury upon spirits. Despite his efforts, his bloodlust grew, not waned. 10 years later, his transformation was complete. His once vibrant spirit now marred by relentless violence. Corpse-laden trees stood as grim testaments to his unyielding nature. Guien, his red armor streaked with grime and blood, threw his sword to the ground in frustration. Kneeling among the hanging corpses, he extended his arms, screaming into the void. His internal torment was as unrelenting as his killing spree. One day, as he meditated on a solitary rock, his master reappeared. With one hand behind his back, he delivered the final verdict. "Duan no longer wishes to see you. From now on, you're on your own. You must fend for yourself." As the wind rustled around him, Guien remained seated, contemplating his fate. Was he truly lost? The weight of his master's words pressed heavily on him. He lowered his gaze to the ground, feeling a profound loneliness. His hands spread out to his sides, and a brilliant golden energy enveloped his body. He looked up at the sky, accepting his solitude as an inevitable part of his martial journey. The teachings of his master, that martial arts were ultimately techniques of assassination, had come to define him. As the last remnants of Guxien's spirit dissolved into the air, Lu Sheng's eyes flew open, overwhelmed by a rush of disorienting sensations. His body, still tingling from the aftermath of their intense battle, felt the weight of what he had just experienced. He sank to the ground, his breath ragged, one hand pressing against his throbbing rib, the other cradling his wounded knee. The memories of Guxien flooded his mind with an intensity that left him reeling. Lu Sheng stared at the remnants of the battlefield, where Guxien's ghostly essence had once lingered. The memories he had seen were nothing short of harrowing. Scenes of unrelenting combat and slaughter, a relentless tide of bloodshed that stretched through countless battles. Each image was a stark reminder of the pure and chilling nature of Guxien's killing intent. The depth of Guxien's path as the master of slaughter was incomprehensible, a level of dedication to violence that dwarfed Lu Sheng's own experiences. As he began to walk towards the discarded samurai armor, Lu Sheng couldn't shake the eerie feeling that Guxien's slaughter was not just a part of him, but an external force, an undeniable aspect of his martial prowess. Guxien had embraced the path of destruction with a fervor that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Lu Sheng realized that Guxien was no ordinary martial saint. His strength and the sheer scale of his killing ability surpassed even what an average level 10 master could withstand. The battle they had just fought had barely scratched the surface of Guxien's true power. A drop of sweat traced a path down Lu Sheng's cheek as he approached the armor. His heart pounded with a mix of trepidation and admiration. Despite the endless carnage Guxien had unleashed, he had maintained a semblance of clarity and purpose, never succumbing to the chaotic madness of a mind consumed by violence. This level of self-control amidst such brutality was a feat Lu Sheng found both impressive and deeply unsettling. Lu Sheng touched his cheek, the cold, distant sensation of Guxien's memories, making him feel like a mere shadow of his former self. He couldn't help but recall his own past experiences, the memories of slicing through fish in a supermarket, an analogy to the cold precision Guxien had embodied. His heart, once warm and passionate, now felt as frigid as the blade he had wielded in his previous life. The contrast was stark, and Lu Sheng resolved to heal his heart by immersing himself in romantic dramas once he left the dream space. A stark juxtaposition to the violence he had just witnessed. As he reached the samurai armor, Lu Sheng's fingers brushed over its surface. He discovered a small knife hidden amidst the debris, a relic of Guxien's martial core. His curiosity piqued, Lu Sheng grasped the knife with both hands, feeling its energy pulse beneath his touch. The blade began to emanate a faint, mysterious glow, and Lu Sheng's eyes widened as an image began to form within its surface. In a surreal vision, he saw Guxien standing in a cornfield of another world. The scene was tranquil, an ironic contrast to the violence that Guxien was known for. The young Guxien, with an intense gaze, began to speak. "Destiny is like a sword," he declared, drawing his blade with a swift motion. "My will is like a sword, and human life, is like grass. As he spoke, Guien launched a devastating strike towards the corn plants. The blade sliced through the air, leaving a trail of fiery destruction that consumed the entire cornfield. The once serene landscape erupted into a blaze, the fire illuminating Guien's relentless philosophy. The Slaughterer's Edge, his signature move that symbolized his path of total annihilation.